There is a strange assumption that dominates modern fashion. The assumption is simple. If something costs more, it must be better. Most people never question it. In fact, entire industries depend on people never questioning it. A luxury label places a logo on a sweater. The price increases fivefold. A celebrity wears it. The demand rises. A marketing campaign tells a story about heritage, craftsmanship, exclusivity, and status. The price rises again. And somewhere in the middle of all this, very few people stop to ask the most important question: what am I actually paying for? Not the story, not the image, not the logo, the product. Because once you begin evaluating clothing on its actual merits, rather than its reputation, something surprising happens. Many affordable brands start looking extraordinarily good, not because luxury brands are always bad. Far from it. Some luxury brands create exceptional products, but many affordable brands create products that are far better than their prices suggest. Products that quietly outperform clothing, costing 3, 4, or even 10 times more. The challenge is finding them. Because these brands rarely dominate social media, they rarely hire celebrities, they rarely appear on luxury shopping streets, they're too busy making clothing, and that's exactly why they deserve attention. Today we're exploring affordable men's clothing brands that most people overlook, and why many of them secretly deliver better value, better durability, and sometimes even better quality than brands charging dramatically more. The difference between expensive and valuable. Before discussing specific brands, it's worth understanding something fundamental. Expensive and valuable are not synonyms. An expensive jacket may be valuable. A valuable jacket may be inexpensive. The two concepts overlap sometimes, but not always. Price reflects many things. Marketing distribution, brand image, celebrity endorsements, retail location, packaging, exclusivity. Quality is only one factor among many. This distinction changes everything. Because once a man learns to separate price from quality, he gains access to a completely different market. A market filled with hidden opportunities, and that's where the real story begins. Brand number 1, Uniqlo. Uniqlo may be the greatest value story in modern menswear, not because everything they make is perfect, because they consistently understand fundamentals. The company focuses obsessively on basics: Oxford shirts, t-shirts, sweaters, outerwear, denim. The products rarely look dramatic, and that's exactly why they work. Most luxury brands attempt to create desire. Uniqlo attempts to solve problems. The distinction is important. A great white t-shirt doesn't need to impress anyone. It needs to fit well, feel comfortable, last, perform. Uniqlo understands this better than most brands at any price point. Their collaborations with premium designers have further demonstrated something interesting. Good design doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes it simply has to be thoughtful. Brand number 2, LL Bean Fashion, often overlooks companies focused on function. That oversight creates opportunity. LL Bean has spent decades building products for real life, not runways, not fashion weeks, real life. Their flannel shirts remain legendary. Their sweaters continue outperforming expectations. Their outerwear ages beautifully, and their quality control remains remarkably consistent. Many luxury brands chase trends. LL Bean chases reliability. Reliability isn't exciting, but reliability is valuable, especially after the novelty of a purchase disappears. The jacket that still works 5 years later becomes more impressive than the jacket that generated excitement for 5 weeks, and LL Bean understands that better than most. Brand number 3, Wrangler. For years, Wrangler suffered from a perception problem. Many consumers viewed it as purely functional, too practical, too simple, too ordinary. Meanwhile, fashion brands borrowed heavily from Wrangler aesthetics and sold similar ideas at dramatically higher prices. The irony is difficult to ignore, because Wrangler never stopped doing what it does best. Making excellent denim, their cowboy-cut jeans remain among the strongest values in menswear. The construction is dependable. The fit is practical. The durability is proven. These qualities matter more than most people realize, because denim reveals the truth over time. and Wrangler consistently passes that test. Brand number 4, Land's End. Few brands deliver more value per dollar than Land's End, and few receive less attention. The company occupies a strange position in fashion, too practical for trend-focused consumers, too affordable for luxury buyers, too good to ignore. Their knitwear, jackets, shirts, and chinos frequently compete with products costing far more, particularly when purchased during sales. The fabrics are solid, the construction is honest, the fit options are extensive. Nothing feels designed for social media. Everything feels designed for use. That distinction becomes increasingly attractive as consumers grow tired of marketing-driven fashion. Brand number 5, J. Crew Factory. J. Crew receives attention. J. Crew Factory quietly delivers value, and value is often more useful. The brand specializes in wardrobe foundations, the pieces that actually get worn. Oxford shirts, chinos, sweaters, casual jackets, everyday essentials. Many men spend too much money on statement pieces and too little money on fundamentals. J. Crew Factory reverses that equation. It helps build the framework of a wardrobe, and strong frameworks create stronger style. Why luxury brands sometimes disappoint? This isn't because luxury brands lack quality. Many don't. The issue is expectations. When someone spends $800 on a sweater, expectations become enormous. The product must justify not only its cost, but also the story surrounding it. That becomes difficult, because fabric can improve, construction can improve, fit can improve. But those improvements often happen incrementally, not dramatically. The difference between a $50 sweater and a $150 sweater may be substantial. The difference between a $150 sweater and an $800 sweater is often much smaller, and that's where many consumers begin questioning value, not quality. Value. The hidden advantage of affordable brands. Affordable brands face a unique challenge. They cannot rely on prestige, they cannot rely on exclusivity, they cannot rely on mythology. The product must work. If it doesn't, customers leave. This creates pressure. Pressure often produces better products, because performance becomes the primary selling point. A jacket must justify itself, a shirt must justify itself, a pair of jeans must justify itself, not through reputation, through experience. And experience remains the most honest form of marketing. The psychology of clothing. Most purchases aren't rational. People like to believe they are. But clothing is emotional. A man buys a jacket. What he's often buying is a feeling: confidence, status, belonging, success. The industry understands this. Luxury marketing is built around this. Affordable brands rarely have the resources to compete on emotion, so they compete on utility. The fascinating part: utility often wins over time. Because feelings fade, the product remains. And eventually every purchase becomes a relationship with the product itself, not the advertisement that sold it. What stylish men eventually learn. The most stylish men tend to arrive at a similar conclusion, not immediately, over years, through experience, through mistakes, through expensive disappointments. They learn that quality exists everywhere, at every price point. The challenge is learning how to recognize it. They begin paying attention to fabric construction, fit, proportion, durability, comfort. The logo matters less, the product matters more, and once that shift occurs, shopping changes completely, because the eye becomes more valuable than the label. The real secret. The real secret isn't finding cheap brands. The real secret is learning how to evaluate products independently. Once a man develops that skill, opportunities appear everywhere. A great jacket becomes obvious. A poor value becomes obvious. A marketing story becomes obvious. The consumer gains freedom. Freedom from hype. Freedom from trends. Freedom from paying for things that don't deserve the price attached to them. And that freedom may be the most valuable thing a wardrobe can provide. Final thoughts. The best affordable men's clothing brands are rarely the loudest. They're rarely the most visible. They're rarely the most discussed. Instead, they quietly continue producing reliable products year after year. Uniqlo, LL Bean, Wrangler, Land's End, J. Crew Factory. Brands that prove an important truth. Great clothing does not have to be expensive. It simply has to be good. And once you learn the difference between price and value, the entire fashion industry begins looking very different. Because sometimes the smartest purchase in the room is also the one nobody is talking about, and that's exactly what makes it valuable. In the end, the conversation was never really about cheap brands, and it was never really about expensive ones either. The names were simply the entry point. The labels were simply the surface. The logos were simply the most visible part of a much deeper question. A question every man eventually faces, whether he realizes it or not. What am I actually paying for? At first, the answer seems obvious. You think you're paying for quality, for craftsmanship, for better materials, for superior construction. And sometimes you are. Sometimes an expensive garment genuinely is better. Sometimes a luxury brand really has invested decades refining a product until it reaches a level that cheaper alternatives struggle to match. Those products exist. They deserve respect. The mistake is assuming they are the rule rather than the exception, because once you spend enough time around clothing, once you handle enough fabrics, wear enough jackets, wash enough shirts, and watch enough garments age, something fascinating begins to happen. The labels become quieter, the products become louder. You start noticing things that have nothing to do with marketing. The way a collar holds its shape after years of use, the way a sweater softens rather than deteriorates, the way a jacket develops character instead of simply wearing out, the way certain pieces seem to become more themselves with time. These qualities are difficult to advertise. They don't photograph particularly well. They don't fit neatly into a 15-second social media clip. But they matter. In fact, they're often the only things that matter. Because clothing is one of the few purchases that enters your life repeatedly. A watch may sit in a box. A luxury accessory may come out occasionally. But your favorite jacket, your favorite jeans, your favorite shirt, these become companions. They participate in your life, and over time, relationships reveal truths that first impressions cannot. This is where many affordable brands quietly outperform their expensive competitors, not because they're trying to, because they're focused on different goals. The luxury industry often sells aspiration. Affordable brands frequently sell utility. Luxury asks, who would you like to become? Utility asks, what do you need this to do? Neither question is wrong, but one tends to age more gracefully, because aspirations change, life changes. Trends change, social expectations change. The things that survive are usually simpler: a jacket that fits, a shirt that lasts, a pair of jeans that improves with wear, a sweater that remains dependable every winter. These aren't exciting purchases, they're meaningful purchases. And meaningful purchases often provide far more satisfaction than exciting ones. There is something liberating about realizing that style is not a financial competition. It never was. The market sometimes wants you to believe otherwise. It benefits from that belief. If style can be purchased, then there is always another purchase to make. Another upgrade, another collection, another limited release, another reason to feel incomplete. But style does not operate that way. Style emerges from understanding. And understanding cannot be purchased. It has to be earned. Through observation, through experimentation, through mistakes, through years of discovering what actually works for you. That process is deeply personal. No brand can shortcut it. No influencer can complete it for you. No logo can replace it. The man who understands this eventually shops differently. He becomes less interested in impressing strangers, more interested in building a wardrobe that supports his actual life. He stops chasing trends simply because they're trending. He stops assuming expensive means superior. He starts asking better questions. Questions like, will I actually wear this? Will I still like this in 5 years? Does this solve a real problem? Is the product genuinely good? These questions seem simple, but they change everything. Because good questions lead to better decisions, and better decisions compound. A man who consistently makes thoughtful clothing choices doesn't need a massive wardrobe. He doesn't need endless options. He doesn't need constant upgrades. His closet becomes smaller, stronger, more coherent. Each piece earns its place. Each purchase serves a purpose. Nothing exists purely because someone else told him it should. This creates a quiet confidence, not the confidence that comes from status, not the confidence that comes from approval, the confidence that comes from certainty. The certainty of knowing why something belongs in your life. That certainty becomes visible. People notice it, not because they're analyzing fabrics or studying labels, because coherence is attractive. A person whose choices align with their life always appears more convincing than someone borrowing an identity from a brand. This may be the greatest secret hidden inside fashion. The best-dressed men are rarely the ones wearing the most expensive clothing. They're often the ones wearing clothing that genuinely belongs to them, clothing that feels natural, clothing that feels earned, clothing that reflects understanding rather than aspiration. And understanding is difficult to fake. The industry can manufacture exclusivity, it can manufacture scarcity, it can manufacture hype, but it cannot manufacture genuine taste. Taste develops slowly, like judgment, like wisdom, like confidence. Through time. The affordable brands we discussed are valuable not because they're cheap. They're valuable because they remind us of something the modern market often tries to obscure. A product should be evaluated as a product, not as a fantasy, not as a status symbol, not as a shortcut to becoming someone else. As a product, a shirt, a jacket, a pair of jeans, a sweater. Simple things, things that either perform or don't, things that either deserve their place in your wardrobe or don't. And once you begin seeing clothing through that lens, an interesting transformation occurs. The noise fades, the marketing loses some of its power. The endless cycle of wanting becomes easier to resist. You stop chasing every new release. You stop feeling pressured by every trend. You stop confusing visibility with value. And gradually, almost without noticing, your relationship with clothing becomes calmer, more intentional, more honest. The irony is that this often leads to better style than any luxury purchase ever could. Because style has never been about spending the most money. It's about understanding what deserves your attention, and that understanding is available to anyone, regardless of budget, regardless of brand, regardless of what name happens to be stitched inside the collar. The logo may attract attention, the quality earns loyalty, and in the long run, loyalty always matters more. Because trends come and go, marketing campaigns disappear, fashion cycles repeat themselves endlessly. But a great product remains a great product, year after year, season after season, quietly proving its worth. And that, more than any logo, is what true value looks like.